This is Arut from Meditherapy, Singapore. One of the main role of Meditherapy is to educate people on diet and lifestyle changes, because most diseases originate from plate. So if I don't correct the plate, there is no way I can correct the disease of a person. So I started a project called Farm to Home. So what we do is we work with farmers who are growing the food organically and sending it to us so we can deliver straight to our clients. Why is it important? In this world, before 120 years, actually everything was organic. But over time, we started to use more of chemical, synthetic fertilizers and varieties of pesticides, which started to get into our food supply and finally into our body, and it becomes a disease. Why? First, you need to understand what are the types of pesticides. Let me share with you some of the major pesticides which are in use, which eventually gets into our food supply either directly or indirectly. So first, fungicides. Fungicides is to kill, as the name suggests, to kill fungus. Second, insecticides. As the name goes, it's to kill insects. Third, herbicides. It's basically to kill plants which we think are weeds and are not good. But trust me, a lot of weeds are very good for our health. Nematicides, it's to kill nematodes. Rodenticides, it's to kill rodents. Acaricides is to kill spiders and mites. Molluscicides is to kill snails and slugs. Bactericides is to kill bacteria. Algicides is to kill algae. Herbicides, it's to kill birds. These are some of the commonly used pesticides which is actually in our food supply. So the consequence, normally if you look at the government propaganda, they say safe levels. In my opinion, there is no safe level at all. Why? In our body, we are not just one person. Actually, within us, there are billions and billions of microbes. All these microbes are very vital for our healthy living. But what happens? A little bit of these pesticides, once they go in, for a microbe, it's a toxin. So once the microbe dies, then actually a lot of bad things starts to flourish in our gut. Eventually it gets into the bloodstream and it poisons the whole body. So now my method is not to teach you about all this. Let's look at the practical things. But sometimes it takes 20-30 years for the truth to emerge. And this is what happened in India. In the 60s, they said they started something called Green Revolution. It's basically to grow abundant of food. Before that, before India started to import pesticides and fertilizers from overseas, everything was natural. But what happened along the way is they started this green revolution, but actually it's not green revolution, it's green destruction. The results spoke 30 years later. The farmers, the people who handle all the pesticides, after 30 years, they started to develop cancer. So if you search for Cancer Express, you will come across this train in India which runs between Punjab and Rajasthan. It's a 300-kilometer journey. It's basically to transport people from Punjab to Rajasthan to treat their cancer. Where it originated? It's all originated from using pesticides and synthetic fertilizers. This is one example, and it has been hidden from us. The governments don't want us to know all this. So you need to learn all this. As you have seen from Cancer Express train, it took nearly 30 years for the world to know that using pesticides and fertilizers which are synthetic is causing numerous health problems. The same way, what I mainly worry are the young children. If we are giving foods filled with pesticides to our kids, they will develop more problems from a very young age. That's why it's predicted kids born after 2000 will die before the parents, and I'm literally seeing it. Many young children have problems. Millennials' health is deteriorating before 30, and not only that, we are polluting the environment around us. I'll give you a real example. How bad is this pollution, pesticide pollution? In Singapore, they always do fogging for cockroaches in a chute, rubbish chute. So once in a while, they do this kind of a fogging to kill cockroaches. They will usually put up a signboard, okay, please close all your windows on so and so day, so and so time. They're doing fogging. My house is on the 4th story, and on that particular day, I forgot to close the windows, and I was inside the house talking to my friends. That's where it was an eye-opening even for me. What happened was, when they were doing fogging outside, because we didn't close the windows, actually the fogging smell came into the house. Then I thought my house have no cockroaches. I was happy, but I was wrong. On that day, the moment the fogging smell came inside, I saw cockroaches coming out of nowhere. Some came from under the fridge, from some of the corners which I normally don't check. And in fact, even one cockroach even flew up, and it was sitting on my friend's shirt. And then slowly I saw them dying in front of my own eyes. That was really my wake-up call, and it only happened in 2019, because my house is on the 4th floor, and that was the first time I am at home when they're doing fogging. And I literally saw cockroaches dying in front of me. So what happened was, after inhaling the fumes for a while, me and my wife got dizzy. We felt nausea, we felt dizzy, and true enough, it took us more than a day to come back to normal. I mean, we are adults. I'm 49 in 2019, so I'm able to manage it. But imagine if there were a baby in the house, and it happened in overseas, in some Middle Eastern country. They used some pesticides in the neighboring apartment, and 2 children died in the next door. Why? The aircon ducts were connected. So the pesticide was sucked in by the aircon, and it spread to the neighboring house, and 2 innocent kids died. Pesticides are really bad. Do not believe the statement, it is okay to ingest in tiny doses. Okay, follow my 5 principles in life. Be alert, be awake, be aware, question anything and everything, apply common sense. Pesticide is a poison. That's it. Don't believe taking in tiny doses will help you. Yes, a cockroach is tiny, so it immediately dies. But in our body, it starts to accumulate. So please watch another video made by a Swedish supermarket chain on why they are switching to organic food. So they tested on few people by giving foods with pesticide and without pesticide, and they collected the urine, and they found out that more pesticides we ingest, our body actually flushes it out through the urine and maybe sweat too. But currently we are overwhelmed. The amount of pesticide we use in every food is increasing, and because of that, our bodies are not able to cope up for a long time. That's why it breaks down even at a young age. Please watch that video. At least you will know that yes, pesticides, we are all alive because our body is pushing it through. If it does not, we too will die like the cockroach. So my advice is, please stop believing the mainstream media and do your own research. So how can you overcome this problem? The first thing is, either grow your own vegetables. This is the best. Second, if not, at least work with somebody who is responsible to bring good quality organic produce to your doorstep and takes the responsibility. That's why I started the program Farm to Home, whereby I have a group of farmers who are willing to grow food in a non-toxic way, and then I just get from them and deliver it straight to the consumers. So second thing, you can do this. Third is, Form at least a cooperative whereby few people can join together and grow foods, different foods, and each one of you can share. If we continue with the same way as what we are doing now, we believing in governments, believing in institutions, believing in corporations, trust me, we will be doomed to death very soon. Please wake up. Now watch this video made by the Swedish supermarket chain.
Most of what is grown today is treated with pesticides. That's not so healthy for the environment, but does it really affect us? Meet the Palmbok family. They don't eat organic food.
Det kostar mer än vanlig mat. Det blir en stor skillnad när man är många i en familj.
But for the next 2 weeks, the Palmboks are going to eat only organic. Before they begin, urine samples are taken from each of the family members. And it turns out they have a number of different pesticides inside their bodies.
Vi hittade framförallt insektsmedel, svampmedel och stråförkortningsmedel.
Vi äter insektsmedel.
Ja, äckligt.
Ja.
So, everything in the kitchen is replaced, and they begin eating only organic. Then, another round of samples are taken, and now, almost all the pesticides have disappeared.
Vi vet ju väldigt lite om långtidseffekter av att äta mat som har besprutats. Speciellt med tanke på att studier har visat att kemikalier i kombination kan vara långt farligare än kemikalier var och en för sig.
När man får höra det här så tänker man framförallt på barnen. Det är många kemikalier som har lämnat deras kroppar och jag vill inte ha tillbaka dem med mina barn.
The place is China. Seems that Mao Zedong, before his death in 1976, decided that a plague of sparrows was putting a large dent in grain production. So in the kind of short-sighted, ill-conceived wisdom that's apparently shared by Chinese dictators and American corporate agricultural CEOs, Mao called for the elimination of sparrows. The killing of the sparrows released a swarm of insects, a problem that affected agriculture much more than the damage done by the birds. So massive spraying programs were instituted. The spraying not only killed harmful insects, it killed beneficial ones as well, including pollinators. Without bees, Chinese crops blossomed, but didn't produce. Are we humans making ourselves vulnerable by continuing to use pesticides, herbicides, and other harmful chemicals in amounts that can't even be measured? Are the rises in certain cancers, endocrine diseases, asthma and allergies, brain function disorders, birth defects, and fertility problems linked to agricultural chemicals? There's no evidence, shout those who profit from their use. But on the other side of the coin is a warning. There's no proof that they don't. We know that many of these products cause cancers, endocrine, and reproductive problems, and other troubles for lab animals. What are the unintended consequences of their use on humans? And if we know beyond a suspicion that lawn sprays and agricultural chemicals can do harm, are those consequences still unintended? Just asking.
Now I'm giving you the third example. So I was discussing about the topic of using of pesticides to one of my client, and I told him, you know, currently when they do fogging for mosquitoes or whatever, actually the smells lingers in the park for a long time, more than what you can imagine. So imagine if there's a kid almost the same height as the grass, if it grows and smells and plays around the grass, they will be inhaling more pesticides. So I was just discussing with my client and I said, have you ever noticed that after they do fogging, the smell, actually the residual smell is there for a long time? Only then he said, oh yeah, yes, now I remember. So one day when he was going out for walking with this dog and they were fumigating a little while ago, the dog was like, you know, they go and start to sniff around. After it was sniffing around for a while, it starts to wobble. It couldn't even walk straight. Why? It's actually the residue of the pesticide went inside its body and it weakened its nervous system and muscles, and that's why it couldn't walk straight. Imagine what will happen to our babies. Currently nobody talks about this or even protects us from all this. So it is our responsibility to know, to start thinking, and we have to take responsibility for our own health in our own hands. Never trust anyone, including me. I always tell people why you should trust me. I'm not running a political group, nor a religious group or a cult group where I need followers. I don't need followers. These groups need followers. All I want is I want conscious people who think and they take care of themselves and Mother Earth so that life can thrive on this planet for a long time. Else, beyond 2100, I can't imagine this world to be a very healthy place. And we are at the last stage. If we don't do something, I think a lot of things is lost forever. Like we have lost a lot of native seeds, native plants, fruits, insects, many more. So please do something to restore the ecosystem back into this world. Now look at the broccoli in this picture. So there are two. It actually came from the same broccoli. I cut it into two. The difference is, for one of the broccoli peas, I used a special solution to remove the pesticide, and for the other one I did. Can you guess what is the one in which pesticide is removed? Take a few seconds and look at the picture and make a guess. Okay, the answer is the one which is more greener is what is cleansed with the pesticide remover. Why? Most pesticides are made from petroleum based products, or in other words oil based products. Oil and water don't stick to each other. So once you spray pesticide on a vegetable, it coats the vegetable with a layer of pesticide which is oil based. So even when you try to wash it, it doesn't go away because oil and water don't mix. But the moment I use special solution, it's able to remove the coat, the pesticide layer, and you can see the greenery, how green it is, whereas the other one is whitish, whereas the real one is greenish. And to my surprise, when I smell the broccoli which is in white, I couldn't smell anything at all because the pesticide which is oil based have masked the entire smell. But once it is removed, I can smell the freshness of a broccoli. Imagine if all our vegetables are like this, coated with a layer of pesticide, how our body can cope. No wonder now childhood cancers are going through the roof, but yet not many people understand it is one of the cause is using of too much of pesticides in our food. So from now, at least after watching these videos, I hope you really do support the movement farm to home, whereby directly help the farmers to grow healthy food and keep them happy and healthy. In turn, they make us good produce which will keep our life and families healthy too. First, we saw about Cancer Express in India, which actually takes people for cancer treatment from Punjab to Rajasthan, and it's all caused by pesticides and use of synthetic fertilizers. Now let's look at the next case on why people turn to organic farming. Rattled by 7 cancer cases, Kerala villagers join hands to turn 63 acres organic. So what triggered them? If you go down the article, the 101 households of Vengeri ward in Kozhikode Corporation, Kerala were rattled when a survey of the homes in the locality revealed that 7 people were battling cancer, 5 of whom were women. So what was the solution? Members of all 101 households came together to get to the root of the issues plaguing their village and find solutions. They reached out to experts who, after a thorough inspection, realized that most women in the village burnt plastic, which released high toxic fumes. Besides, much of the produce consumed wasn't locally grown and doused with chemical pesticides. So now let's look at this simple case history. Around the same time, we were alerted about an incident in the nearby district of Mamallapuram. A truck carrying ladies' fingers from Tamil Nadu to Kozhikode met with an accident and upturned close to a water body. While the vegetables were retrieved a day later, most of the fish and amphibians in the water body were found dead. It helps us to create awareness about how harmful chemical doused vegetables could be. What more you need? Now let's look at the fourth case on why organic foods is vital for our survival. Couple leaves US tech jobs, battles cancer to start an organic farm in Hyderabad. After they left US jobs and moved to India, Madhavi was diagnosed with breast cancer. So what's the first thing she did? Let's hear from her own words. Madhavi knew she had to cut out chemicals from their lives. She discussed with Venu the prospects of growing organic, growing their food themselves to ensure 100% chemical free and high quality. Today, not only has Madhavi battled and won her disease, but also lends a helping hand to her husband in nourishing the 25-acre organic farm. So this is all some of the real case histories on why people switch to organic. So from now, please do your very best to eat organic wherever possible, and that will really save you tons of money and keep you in good health. This world now, in my opinion, is governed upside down, totally in a wrong manner. Now again, apply common sense. Someone can spray the vegetables with pesticides, can use all synthetic fertilizers, which again poisons the earth and poisons the people, poisons insects, poisons almost all lives on this planet. Yet they are totally free to roam about. They are not implicated by any law. Now look at an organic farmer. For someone who takes efforts to grow food in the most natural, most healthiest manner without spraying any pesticide, insecticide, fungicide, herbicide, whatever, he has to spend a lot of money to get certified his food is free of pesticides. Don't you think it is the most insane thing happening in the world? Think again. Anyone harming the world is free to do with all the chemicals. But someone growing organic food have to spend tons of money to prove he is doing things in the most natural way. That's why I say this world is totally run upside down. Why should it happen? In fact, organic farmers shouldn't even need any certification. It's the people who are growing food with pesticides and herbicides and fungicides. They should be labeled. In fact, they should be totally banned. Why? Those pesticide residues stay on this planet for lots and lots of years, causing generations of genetic issues. If you don't believe, look at what happened in Vietnam. Americans sprayed Agent Orange. A company called Monsanto makes it. In fact, people now call it as Satan because it's really a Satan company.
What do you get when you mix 2,4,5-T acid and 2,4-D acid? You get a powerful herbicide that the United States military used during the Vietnam War, and one that's been tied to serious health problems for the people exposed to it. The answer is Agent Orange. Agent Orange was just one of a series of heavy-duty chemicals the US military used in Southeast Asia, called rainbow herbicides. There were also agents blue, pink, green, purple, and white, but orange was the big one. Some 20 million gallons were sprayed on Southeast Asian jungles, fields, and other targets over a 9-year period from 1962 to 1971. It was part of what the US military called Operation Ranch Hand, aiming to defoliate the South Vietnamese countryside. The goal was to rob the Viet Cong of food sources and places to hide. This kind of scorched earth fighting, clearing the land of anything the enemy could use, is an ancient military tactic. But using chemicals to do that was a pretty recent invention. England and the US developed tactical herbicides during World War II, but didn't really use them. Herbicidal warfare was first used by the British in the 1950s in what's now Malaysia. The US saw that and said, that could work for us in Vietnam. Thus, Operation Ranch Hand. But it would come with a price. In addition to those two chemicals I mentioned earlier, Agent Orange also contains something else called TCDD, the most toxic of a class of chemicals called dioxins. Dioxins are dangerous, even in minute amounts. Veterans returning from Vietnam started reporting these health problems in increasing numbers: cancer, birth defects, miscarriages, and skin diseases, among other issues. Over 2.5 million US soldiers were exposed to Agent Orange during the war. And let's not forget about the Vietnamese. Researchers in Vietnam claim that some 2 million cancers and other diseases, and 500,000 birth defects, were caused in that country by exposure to Agent Orange. And despite some bilateral cleanup efforts, the chemicals continue to pollute the soil there to this day. The fighting in Vietnam may be long over, but its legacy haunts both sides of the conflict, thanks in part to Agent Orange.
Until now, in 2020, close to 2020, people are still feeling the implications of the Agent Orange.
About 60% of them have parents directly exposed to Agent Orange. The dioxin can be transmitted from mother to the babies.
Ở trên trời thì máy bay bay này, giải chất độc xuống. Did it hit you? Tôi là những người mà trực tiếp hít phải cái đó.
The only thing that's separating the Vietnamese population from one of the most contaminated places on the planet is a wire fence. I'm in the city that used to be called Saigon, renamed Ho Chi Minh City after the country's leader during the Vietnam War. It's more than 40 years since the conflict ended, but its effects are still felt everywhere. This is Tzu Maternity Hospital in Ho Chi Minh City. Now, Dr. Phu is based there, and she's a tireless campaigner when it comes to making people all over the world aware of the connection between Agent Orange and children born with deformities. I'm here to visit something called a Peace Village, one of 13 she has set up. She believes many of the children in them have been affected by Agent Orange, a defoliant dropped by US forces. Everybody wants to speak to you.
Yeah.
This is the Peace Village.
Yeah.
Would you mind showing me some of the children? Tell me about this
Dr.
place,
Nguyen
how
Di
it started
Gok
and why
is
it started.
internationally respected for her work.
Germany. And
She takes me first to meet a little girl called Cham.
you see, Cleft Valley here. Sao con có bú được không? Tăng cân.
So this is a child whose
Yes.
parents were affected by Agent Orange.
He's blind.
And these are all signs of children who have been affected by Agent Orange.
Yeah. You see, 5 deformities recognized by the scientific community. First is neurotype defects.
Yeah.
Deformities of sensory organs,
Yeah.
the Siamese twins, cleft palate and cleft lip,
Yeah.
and deformities of limbs. Those deformities are common in Vietnam.
Dr. Phu told me that a research study she conducted showed that birth defects in Agent Orange sprayed areas were 3 or more times higher than other places.
Here we take care mainly the children affected by the Agent Orange. About 60% of them have parents directly exposed to the Agent Orange during war or after the war.
But the war was years ago. Why is it still affecting children now? This is 3rd and 4th generation.
One thing is that the dioxin can be transmitted from mother to the babies.
The Agent Orange used during the war contained a dangerous chemical called dioxin. Dr. Feur and many scientists believe it can lead to genetic mutations. Studies where mice were given dioxin showed this. It's hard to prove in humans, but Dr. Feur herself is convinced that generations of Vietnamese children are being affected. Some children here were abandoned at birth. For some, it's a lifelong home, like Loy.
Can you show me where you live?
Okay, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Hello. I love baby. Hello. I get up.
What's her name?
Kit.
Kit. And this baby?
Her name Cham.
Cham.
Chaman. Very happy.
You're like the big brother.
Yes. Here big family. Right.
Is this your place?
Yes. Come.
Because Loy was born in an area affected by Agent Orange, one of the senior doctors told me they think there's a good chance his disability is dioxin related.
So you sleep in this room. Tell me about when you were a baby. Do you remember much about when you were a baby?
Khi tôi 4 tuổi, gia đình tôi khó khăn, nhà nghèo nên mới gửi Lợi vào đây.
Would you rather be living at home with your family?
Đến ngay bây giờ và dần thời gian lớn và hiện tại bây giờ thì cảm thấy sống ở đây như một gia đình của mình, một gia đình lớn. Ở đây có anh, có em và chia sẻ với cho các em những gì mình đã biết.
This Peace Village ward is amazing and the work that's being done here is incredible. But, I mean, the harsh reality is, if what Dr. Furt is saying about the connection between Agent Orange and the deformities that these kids are suffering is true, you know, she says 60% of them, you know, are connected to Agent Orange, then the harsh reality is they are war victims. And war victims, they're paying for a war that happened over half a century ago. And the sad thing is, most of us have forgotten about it.
Agent Orange was essentially a weed killer, but much, much stronger. It was used by the American forces to destroy the jungle their enemy used for cover. The production process caused contamination with the most toxic form of dioxin, known as TCDD. The levels in Agent Orange make it one of the most dangerous chemicals ever manufactured.
Between 1961 and 1971, in that 10-year period, the US Army dropped millions of gallons of Agent Orange over jungle like this to strip it of all of its foliage.
Ở trên trời thì máy bay này, rải chất độc xuống. Và khi đó thì những người lính ở ngoài mặt trận mà bị nhiễm cái đó, bị hít phải cái đó thì người ta sẽ chảy máu tai.
Mr. Sun is a decorated Vietnam War veteran. He tells us he's the only one in his platoon that survived the war.
18 tuổi đời, muôn dặm sông pha vì Tổ quốc. Khi mà chất độc rải xuống thì phải đổ nước ra bịt mũi. Thế còn một ngày sau thì lá cây ở cái vùng đó rụng hết. Cây trơ trụi cành để làm lộ ra các cái mục tiêu quân sự.
Were you directly affected by Agent Orange? Did it hit you?
Tôi là những người mà trực tiếp hít phải cái đó. Rồi lại cái đó nó xuống đất, xuống nước thì mình lại nấu ăn. Lại ăn bằng cái nước đấy, là ăn vào trong đường thực quản này.
Sun's daughter Thuy is severely disabled and is classified by the government as an Agent Orange victim because of her father's exposure during the war.
Thúy đang co giật đấy Châu ạ.
Lần cho giật này là đêm giật là cả nhà thức đêm luôn để trông, để xoa bóp này đỡ.
Cháu trong cái tình trạng co giật như này là từ khi mới đẻ ra.
Based on the limited studies that have been done, The Vietnam Red Cross estimate those affected by Agent Orange at around 3 million, of whom 150,000 are children with birth defects. The government provides a monthly payment to over 200,000 families.
Thúy là câm, điếc, mù, liệt.
Their son Hung is a celebrated monochord musician and composer. He's gradually gone blind.
You and your sister and your parents are known as Agent Orange victims. How does that make you feel?
Năm hơn 10 tuổi, một tí khoảng 12 tuổi thì mắt phải của tôi, con mắt còn lại thì bắt đầu có những cái dấu hiệu là nó kém dần đi. Bắt đầu đi khám bác sĩ rồi bắt đầu nghe mọi người nói nhiều hơn, và ở cái tuổi này thì bắt đầu cũng đã có hiểu được rất là nhiều rồi, thì mới biết được những cái thông tin là cái chất độc da cam thì nó có thể ảnh hưởng đến cái sức khỏe, không phải chỉ là một thế hệ mà có thể là còn có những thế hệ sau này nữa. Nó để lại một cái dấu ấn ở trong cái tuổi thơ của mình.
Do you ever feel angry or frustrated at what has happened to you?
Cũng không tránh khỏi những cái suy nghĩ căm giận, là vì tại sao mà cái cuộc chiến tranh nó lại mang tới những cái điều mà có lẽ nó đi ngược lại với các cái giá trị nhân văn tốt đẹp của con người đến như vậy.
What lovely people. And you know what, I'm guessing that when Sun left the army, he was probably hoping to leave behind the war and all the memories of the atrocities, but the birth of his kids and the fact that they're both disabled mean that his family can never forget.
Vietnamese doctors are concerned parents affected by Agent Orange are passing on genetic defects to their children. But they're also worried about the fact there are still areas heavily contaminated with dioxin.
One of them is Da Nang Air Base, which is right behind me, and it's been quoted of having dioxin levels that are 350 times higher than the international safety standards. Now, we've been told that there are US specialists in there at the moment carrying out a clean-up operation. But what I think is absolutely nuts is that the only thing that's separating the Vietnamese population from one of the most contaminated places on the planet is a wire fence.
Da Nang was the main US air base during the war, where huge stockpiles of Agent Orange were stored. The chemical residue remained, seeping into Da Nang's water supply and getting into the food chain. The US government has donated millions in aid to clean up Da Nang and other hotspots, working with the Vietnamese government. The Da Nang Association for Victims of Agent Orange introduced me to one of the families whose children might have been affected by dioxin. Their dad served in the army after the war, but went to areas that had been sprayed.
And he believes that he may have passed on the effects to his young son, who's now in Da Nang Hospital fighting for his life. I'm going to go and meet him.
Diep has had heart problems all of his life, but was recently rushed to hospital when things took a turn for the worse. His parents Ming and Hai have to take it in turns to give him constant care.
Cháu hiện tại nó đông mày. Không là bác sĩ nói cháu là hiện tại là nó bị suy tim giai đoạn cuối thì rất nặng. Thì là bác sĩ nói là cái thuốc mang như là lấy tăng thêm thuốc nên là chạy là đang điều trị là chừng nào là hai chừng đó thôi chứ trừ bác sĩ cũng không biết nói gì hơn.
At the moment, he can't lie down because it's too painful. He has to sleep propped up.
Mấy chỗ có anh giúp cho cậu, chứ không tao chỉ đồ không được tự sót thôi, chứ không đau quá.
He needs a heart transplant.
Yeah.
And how much would it cost?
Bác sĩ nói là cũng là nằm trên cái dạng tiền tỷ chứ không phải là tiền trăm.
So it's about $40,000. And how will you get that money?
Yeah, không thể đó được.
What do you think has caused Diep's problems?
Cho nên trời là cũng nghĩ là cũng do mà đi lính rồi nằm ở một cái vùng đất coi như là xa xôi, coi như là chỗ mà có thuốc độc này kia của
Diep's heart defect is on the list of conditions that the Vietnamese government associate with Agent Orange. But his family could also just be unlucky. I asked Diep's doctor what he thinks.
Speaking to his parents, they believe that his illness could have been caused by Agent Orange because his father worked in the army and he walked through contaminated fields.
Anything can happen. So until now, the exactly cause is not clear.
The problem is, not only have they got to deal with their son who is in so much pain, but they don't know the reason.
But medicine field have limited. Yeah, so we know what is happening in that body, but we don't know the cause exactly.
There's no test that can prove a genetic illness has been caused by Agent Orange.
What has these last few months been like for you?
Ở gia đình là con đau của Điệp đau thường xuyên, để cứ ở nhà đau không làm được cái việc gì hết, cứ đi bệnh viện kho nữa. Gia đình rất chi là đau khổ, chịu không được, hết sức rồi.
It's not just exposure to Agent Orange in the past that worries Diep's father. He believes his village is still affected by it.
Xin chào. Ming, I'd really love for you to show me how this area was impacted by Agent Orange.
Không được chứ. Thì ở ngồi bước ra đây thôi chứ đâu sao đâu. Đứng tắt lên được.
Yep, down here.
Còn ở đây là họ trồng lúa coi như là nó lên, nó có cây, nó cũng vàng rồi nói chung là cái hạt nó cũng lép, cũng là bị mất mùa, không thu hoạch được.
So in this area, can you not grow any more crops?
Không thể trồng được, trồng là nó chết.
Do you think the reason for the poor crops is because of Agent Orange?
Đó thì tôi không biết, nhưng mà tôi nghĩ là chất độc hóa học. Nó thấy rã quanh một cái vùng như thế là để cho coi như là cây cối nó chết thôi. Mình nếu nó chết thì con người không phải ảnh hưởng, chứ còn không thể thoát được.
We were told by the Da Nang Association for Victims of Agent Orange that it was stored near here, but that no tests have been done to check dioxin levels. So Min can't know for sure, but he's convinced his family have been at risk.
Hello.
Even though he's very sick, Diep has asked to come home from hospital.
How are you?
Bây giờ tôi thấy trong người không khỏe, nhưng mà vấn đề mà yếu mà.
Why did you want to come back home?
Sao không nhớ em, nhớ ông nội mình rồi. Con còn muốn gì nào để không thấy.
I meet the rest of the family.
I know your son, he also has problems as well.
Nó bị đau coi như là một bẩm sinh, vì không tắc về trên bụng, coi như là nó không có da bụng.
Do you mind if we see your stomach?
Cái bụng nó kêu là nó xấu lắm.
Với đây là cái lớp da để của bò để đáp vào vô đây.
Because Min can't prove he was exposed to dioxin, the family can't get any compensation.
You can see how much they really cherish having Diep back home, and it was Diep who actually requested to be brought back home because he wanted to be around the people who love him. But what just keeps sticking with me and keeps hitting me is that they will never ever know for sure what has caused their son's illnesses, and all they can do is just enjoy these precious moments that they have left.
Sadly, just a week after my visit, Dirk passed away. It could be lack of funds, it could be lack of will, or that the science is very hard. But I'm shocked at how much still needs to be done to understand the effects of Agent Orange. I go to see Dr. Fua back at the Peace Village.
I know you've been working all day today, so how do you feel when you see all of these children here whose parents have been affected by Agent Orange and they've passed it on to their children?
The people who cause such crimes, they don't recognize their responsibility. For example, the chemical companies, they still there. They don't have any responsibility. I think everybody must get angry with them.
In 2008, Dr. Fua was a key witness when Vietnamese groups tried to sue the US chemical companies that made Agent Orange. They lost because the US courts ruled its use didn't violate the rules of war and that the US government and manufacturers weren't aware of all the risks to human health. Without admitting liability for the effects of Agent Orange, the US government has given $21 million to help disabled people in Vietnam living in sprayed areas. Dr. Fua would like more.
And how difficult is it for a family who give birth to a child who's affected by Agent Orange?
First of all, it's to face the people living around. You see, they say that, oh, you have done something bad thing, so that God punished you to give you such a child.
So they get a lot of stigma from the people around because they have Agent Orange children.
Most of them are very poor because they live in the spread areas in the war zone. It's very difficult for them to take care of such a child.
Before I leave Vietnam, I want to catch up with the Peace Village's big brother, Loy.
Loy, you go to train now?
Yes, I now go swimming.
He's a fellow athlete. I've dropped in on a photo shoot his friends are doing for Loy's social media profile.
Lo's a success story from the Peace Village. Took up Paralympic swimming, represents Vietnam, and now he's having a photo shoot. Look at him, he's a star.
My friend?
With all of this training you're doing, do you want to try and make it into the team for 2020, for the Paralympics in Tokyo?
I try my best.
What, to win gold?
Gold medal?
Yeah?
No, I think brown.
Brown? No, you have to think gold. No bronze, no, gold. Oh, you got your medals?
Yes, medal.
Oh, wow! Woo! Look at this! Asian Para Games.
Yes.
Myanmar.
Yeah, Myanmar.
All very special.
I know, I know.
Tell me about your disability, your condition. You know, do you know much about the history and the reasons?
Còn về vấn đề mà bị bệnh di tật như này thì lại không biết và cũng không có quan tâm lắm. Vì hiện tại mình có một cuộc sống rất là tốt, rất là vui vẻ.
You're really confident, smiling all the time.
Confident.
But do you think some of the other children here, do you think they will have more problems when they go out into society?
Người anh lớn muốn chia sẻ và dạy dỗ lại cho các em mình sự tự tin, mạnh mẽ để sau này các em bước ra đời với một. Đối với Lợi, khuyết tật không có là trở ngại gì hết. Đó là chỉ là sự khác biệt với mọi người thôi.
It's about who you are as a person, not your disability.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love Loy's attitude. He's a huge inspiration and perhaps represents the next generation looking forwards in Vietnam.
Okay.
No one is going to accept blame for what happened in a dreadful war. But if the US and Vietnam got together to investigate the effects of Agent Orange further, it might stop more children being born with terrible disabilities.
Let's work together to start an organic revolution and a natural revolution Let's follow and obey nature's law and forget what all this rubbish science talks about fertilizers and pesticides. They are totally useless and hopeless, and it should be criminalized. Anyone using pesticides and synthetic fertilizers should be treated as against humanity. This is my personal opinion. I mean, you have seen all the 4 cases I presented to you, and I no need to justify even further. If you think this is the way to go to grow natural, please support farmers as much as you can. Nothing will change unless we stand up, speak out, and share the truth with each other, because you won't hear any of this from the lamestream media. News isn't news anymore, it's propaganda. We are the last generation that can change things. We all can play a role to change things for the better. You have a choice, or you can be silent. Please be a voice for the betterment of our future. I am not talking about violent revolution. I am talking about correct choices from an informed public. If you want to be the change, please join me. I need more help to take this message worldwide. I said we are the last leg. Either we can choose to remain silent or do something for good. The earth has been around for 4 billion years, but in the last 120 years we have destroyed it. If our ancestors have done it, we will be in pain now. But this is what we are doing to our next generation. If we continue the same way what we have been doing for the last 120 years, trust me, there will not be any life on this planet beyond 2100, as we are already facing 6th mass extinction. So please join me and let's do things together to change things around for the better.